Hello, listening squirrels. If you just saw, I had well, maybe it's not up yet. Well, it will be by the time you see this. I got a little sweetie from Jill. I shouldn't read with it in my mouth, but it was just so tempting. And guess what chapter 11 is called? Small Temptations. Oh, Rose, I've got something so exciting to tell you, cried Kitty Van Tassel, skipping into the carriage next morning when her friend called for her to go shopping. Kitty always did have something perfectly thrilling, some perfectly thrilling communication to make, and Rose had learned to take them quietly, but the next demonstration was a new one, for regardless alike of curious observers outside and disordered hats within, Kitty caught Rose around the neck, exclaiming in a rapturous whisper, "My dearest creature, I'm engaged!" "I'm so glad. Of course it is Steve." "Dear fellow, he did it last night in the nicest way, and Mama is so delighted. Now what shall I be married in?" And Kitty composed herself with a face full of the deepest anxiety. "How can you talk of that so soon? Why, Kit, you unromantic girl, you ought to be thinking of your lover and not your clothes," said Rose, amused yet rather scandalized at such want of sentiment. "I'm thinking of my lover, for he says he will not have a long engagement, so I must begin to think about the most important things at once, mustn't I?" "Ah, he wants to be sure of you, for you're such a slippery creature. He's afraid you'll treat him as you did poor Jackson and the rest," interrupted Jo, shaking her finger at the prospective cousin, who had tried this pastime twice before and was rather proud than otherwise of her brief engagements. "You needn't scold, for I know I'm right, and when you've been in society as long as I have, you'll find the only way to really know a man is to be engaged. The only way to really know a man is to be engaged. Hang on, you need scold, for I know I'm right. When you've been in society as long as I have, you'll find that the only way to really know a man is to be engaged to him. While they want you, they are all devotion, but when they think they've got you, then you find out what wretches they are," answered Kitty with an air of worldly wisdom which contrasted oddly with her youthful face and giddy manners. "A sad prospect for poor Steve, unless I give him a hint to look well to his ways. Oh, my dear child, I'm sure of him, for my experience has made me very sharp, and I'm convinced I can manage him without a bit of trouble. We've known each other for ages. Steve was 20 and Kitty 18, and always been the best of friends. Besides, he's quite my ideal man. I never could bear big hands and feet, and his are simply adorable. Then he's the best dancer I know, and dresses in perfect taste. I really do believe I fell in love with his pocket handkerchiefs first. They were so enchanting, I couldn't resist," laughed Kitty, pulling a large one out of her pocket and burying her little nose in the folds, which shed a delicious fragrance upon the air. "Now that looks promising, and I begin to think you've got a little sentiment after all," said Rose, well pleased, for the merry brown eyes had softened suddenly, and a quick color came up into Kitty's cheek as she answered, still half hiding her face in the beloved handkerchief. "Of course I have, lots of it, only I'm ashamed to show it to most people, because it's the style to take everything in the most nonchalant way. My gracious, Rose, you'll have thought me a romantic goose last night while Steve proposed in the back parlor, for I actually cried. He was so dreadfully in earnest when I pretended that I didn't care for him, and so very dear and nice when I told the truth. I didn't know he had it in him, but he came out delightfully and never cared a particle, though I dropped tears all over his lovely shirt front. Wasn't that good of him? For you know he hates his things to be mussed. He's a true Campbell and has got a good warm heart of his own under those fine fronts of his. Aunt Jane doesn't believe in sentiment, so he has been trained never to show any, but it's there, and you must encourage him to let it out, not foolishly, but in a way to make him more manly and serious. I will if I can, for though I wouldn't own this to everybody, I like it in him very much and feel as if Steve and I should get on beautifully. Here we are now. Be sure not to breathe a word if we meet anyone. I want it to be a profound secret for a week at least, added Kitty, whisking her handkerchief out of sight as the carriage stopped before the fashionable store they were about to visit. Rose promised with a smile, for Kitty's face betrayed her without words, so full was it of the happiness which few days fail to understand whenever they see it. Just a glance at the silks. You ask my opinion about white ones, and I'll look at the colors. Mama says satin, but that's out now, and I've set my heart on the heaviest corded thing I could find, whispered Kitty as they went rustling by the long counter strewn with all that could delight the feminine eye and tempt the feminine pocket. Isn't that opal the loveliest thing you ever saw? I'm afraid I'm too dark to wear it, but it would just suit you. You'll need a variety, you know, added Kitty in a significant aside as Rose stood among the white silks, while her companion affected great interest in the delicate hues laid before her. But I have variety now and don't need a new dress of any sort. No matter, get it, else it will be gone. You've worn all yours several times already and must have a new one, whether you need it or not. Dear me, if I had as much pocket money as you have, I'd come out in a fresh toilet at every party I went to, answered Kitty. And that's for Miss Mary Ann Crotchety, but she is, let us know she's not coming on today. But normally, every Thursday at 4 Eastern, please watch my sissy, my little sissy, Mary Ann, the Crotchety Clogger. Just not today. And dear me, okay, fresh toilet at every party, casting an envious eye upon the rainbow piles before her. The quick-witted shopman saw that a wedding was afoot, for when two pretty girls whisper, smile, and blush over their shopping, clerks sent bridal finery, scent like smell. Bridal finery in a transient gleam of interest brightens their imperturbable countenances and lends a brief energy to languid voices wearying with crying cash. Gathering both silks with practised turn of the hand, he held them up for inspection, detecting at a glance which was the bride-elect and which the friend, for Katy fell back to study the effect of the silvery white folds with an absorbing interest impossible to mistake, while Rose sat looking at the opal as if she scarcely heard a bland voice saying with the ruffles of silk, so dear to girlish ears. A superb thing, just opened, all the rage in Paris, very rare shade, trying to most, as the lady says, but quite perfect for a blonde. Rose was not listening to those words, but to others which Aunt Clara had lately uttered, laughed at them, but thought over more than once since. I'm tired of hearing people wonder why Miss Campbell does not dress more. Simplicity is all very well for schoolgirls and women who can't afford anything better, but you can, and you really ought. Your things are pretty enough in their way, And I rather like you to have a style of your own, but it looks odd and people will think you're mean if you don't make more show. Besides, you don't do justice to your beauty, which would be both peculiar and striking if you devote your mind to getting up ravishing costumes. Much more to the same effect did her aunt say, discussing the subject quite artistically and unconsciously appealing to several of Rose's ruling passions. One was a love for the delicate fabrics, colors, and ornaments which refined taste and enjoy, whose costliness keeps them from ever growing common. Another, her strong desire to please the eyes of those she cared for and gratify their wishes in the smallest matter, if she could. And last but not least, the natural desire of a young and pretty woman to embrace the beauty which she soon discovers to be her most potent charm for other sex. Her passport to a high place among her maiden peers. She had thought seriously of surprising and delighting everyone by appearing in a costume which should do justice to the loveliness which was so modest that it was apt to forget itself in admiring others, what girls call a ravishing dress. But as she could imagine and easily procure by the magic of this, not by the magic, she hardly managed to procure the magic of the Fortunatus purse in her pocket. She had planned it all, the shimmer of pale silk through lace like woven frostwork, ornaments of some classic pattern, and all the dainty accessories as perfect as time, taste, and money could make them. She knew that Uncle Alec's healthful training had given her a figure that could venture out on any fashion, and nature blessed her with a complexion that defied all hues. So it was her wonder that she felt a strong desire to use these gifts, not for the pleasure of display, but to seem fair in the eyes that seldom looked at her without a tender sort of admiration, all the more winning when no words marred the involuntary homage women love. These thoughts were busy in Rose's mind as she sat looking at the lovely silk and wondering what Charlie would say if she should come, if she should some night burst upon him in a pale rosy cloud like the aurora to whom he often likened her. She knew it pleased him very much, and she longed to do all she honestly could to gratify the poor fellow, for her tender heart already felt some remorseful pangs, remembering how severe she had been the night before. She could not revoke her words, because she meant them every one, but she might be kind and show she did not wholly shut him out from her regard by adding them to go with her to Kitty's ball, and greatly gratify his artistic taste by a lovely costume. A very girlish but kindly plan, for that ball was to be the last of the frivolities. So she wanted it to be a pleasant one, and felt that being friendly with Charles would add so much to her enjoyment. This idea made her fingers tighten on the gleaming fabric so temptingly upheld, and she was about to take it when, "If you please, sir, would you kindly tell me where I'd be finding the flannel place?" said a voice behind her, and glancing up she saw a meek little Irish woman, looking quite lost and out of place among the luxuries around her. "Downstairs, turn to the left," was the clerk's hasty reply, with a vague wave of the hand which left the inquirer more in the dark than ever. Rose saw the woman's perplexity and said kindly, "I'll show you this way." I'm ashamed to be troubling you, is what it says, miss, but it's strange I am in it and wouldn't be coming here at all. Baron, they told me I could get the bit I'm wanting cheaper in this big shop than the little ones, more becoming the like of me, exclaimed the little woman humbly. Rose looked again as she led the way through a well-dressed crowd of busy shoppers, and something in the anxious, tired face under the old wooden hood, the bare purple hands holding fast a meager wallet and a faded scrap of the dotted flannel, looked like children's frocks are so often made of, touched the generous heart that never could see want without an impulse to relieve it. She had meant only to point the way, but following a new impulse, she went on, listening to the poor soul's motherly prattle about the baby and the trouble it was to find clothes and the growing children when the man is out with work, and the bit and sup inconvenient these hard times as they descended to that darksome lower world where necessities take refuge without luxuries crowds them out from the gayer place above. And I'm going to stop there. Not sure how much more there is to read. Quite a bit, I think. Yeah. A good bit. Hopefully I can get it read tomorrow. Hopefully that made sense to you. I'm not always sure it does. Okay, have a happy crafty day. I'm not on today, but I'll probably be up on Dana's panel on her making meat. It's either at 5 or 5:30. I want to say 5:30, but check at 5. Creatively Created Crochet. That's our Dana. And live at 5 tomorrow. Be sweet, don't be ugly. Love ya. Bye-bye.